The Zarnathi Empire had ruled the stars for over 3,000 years. Their fleets stretched across 1,000 worlds, their laws carved into the surface of moons. Their enemies were forgotten like dust. They believed themselves to be the final word in civilization. So, when one of their deep space listening posts picked up odd signals, music, laughter, even arguments from a strange, small blue planet in a quiet corner of the galaxy, they were curious, but not concerned. The planet, called Earth, appeared primitive. No warp travel, no galactic presence. Yet their signals showed thought, culture, even art. The Zarnathi High Command decided to send a single ship to bring this new species under the Empire's rule. Not a fleet, just one diplomatic cruiser with a few guards and one of their senior envoys. They expected a short conversation, a quick surrender, and perhaps a formal celebration afterward. But the moment the sleek silver ship entered Earth's orbit, things began to feel different. The humans did not panic. No weapons fired. No scrambling of forces. Instead, dozens of satellites changed course and began following the alien ship with precise, eerie coordination. The Zarnathi envoy, Lord Velktor, dismissed it as a curious welcome. When communication was opened, Earth's representatives didn't scream or beg, they smiled. A woman named Dr. Lena Marcus, speaking for Earth's United Council, welcomed the envoy politely. She offered them access to Earth's orbital station and even sent up a care package of food and coffee. The envoy was confused. Empires were used to fear, to trembling, to instant obedience. Instead, he received roasted coffee, beans, a handwritten note, and something called chocolate. He didn't understand the meaning. Still, duty came first. Velktor transmitted a formal demand for surrender. Earth was to place all resources, governments, and knowledge under the rule of the Zarnathi Empire. It was read aloud by Earth's military general Michael Reeds in a quiet room inside Earth's orbital station. He read it carefully, paused, and then looked up with a small, calm smile. "Thank you for your message," he said, folding the document neatly. "But we've been waiting for you." Those words puzzled Velktor more than any weapon might have. Waiting for what? The general didn't elaborate. He simply offered a handshake. The Zarnathi, who considered physical contact strange and unnecessary, found this gesture odd and possibly disrespectful. Still, the humans seemed sincere, calm, friendly, to calm. In the following hours, Earth's behavior remained strangely consistent. No armies mobilized, no panic in the streets. Instead, their scientists asked questions about Zarnathi physics. Their engineers admired the ship's design and politely asked if they could take scans. One human even gave Velktor a hand-drawn sketch of his ship and called it beautiful. The Empire had visited hundreds of planets. Most civilizations either fell to their knees or tried to resist and were crushed quickly. But humans? They offered coffee and compliments? It was unsettling. One Zarnathi guard commented to his captain that the humans didn't look primitive, they looked prepared. That night, Velktor stood before a massive window overlooking Earth's glowing surface. It looked peaceful, too peaceful. He tried to convince himself that this planet was harmless, just another name to add to the Empire's long list. But the general's smile haunted him. "We've been waiting," the man had said. The next morning, the humans invited the envoy to attend a cultural exchange in Geneva, where leaders, thinkers, and children gathered to share stories and music. Velktor went, still curious. The gathering was cheerful. Children laughed.
Elders
Spoke of humanity's history. Musicians played instruments from wood, string, and brass. Yet beneath it all, there was something else, an unspoken unity. Earth's leaders came from different cultures and languages, yet they stood side by side like old friends. It didn't feel like a planet unprepared for contact. It felt like one that had been rehearsing. After the event, General Reeds approached. Velktor again. This time his tone was still friendly, but his eyes were sharper. "You should know," he said calmly. "This isn't the first alien ship to visit, just the first to announce itself." The envoy blinked. Reeds continued. "We found others. Crashed, buried, old. We studied them, and we learned quietly. You've been watching the stars. We've been watching the past. Velctor returned to his ship in silence. That night, he sent a private message back to the High Command. The humans are unusual. They are not aggressive, but they are not afraid. They smile, too, easily. Their knowledge is greater than expected. Proceed with caution. The Empire laughed at his message. What could a small dirt-covered world do to threaten the might of the Zarnathi? But as Earth turned slowly below and the stars shifted above, Velctor found himself watching the planet for hours. Something was wrong. Or maybe something was exactly right for the humans. They had not resisted, but they had not submitted. They had offered peace, but hinted at knowledge beyond what was visible. And somewhere, deep inside the ship's sensors, a strange signal was found, an encrypted burst from Earth's surface. Bouncing off their own satellites, hidden in plain sight, no one could decode it. No one except humans. And that's when Velctor finally realized they weren't welcoming the Empire. They were observing it. The decision came quickly after Lord Velctor's report reached the Zarnathi High Command. They would send shock troops to Earth, and not for war, but for a show of power. It was a common practice. March through the heart of a newly discovered civilization. Let the locals see the armor, the weapons, the discipline. Such displays usually crushed resistance before it ever began. Earth, still quiet and oddly welcoming, was selected for a soft demonstration of dominance. Within a solar cycle, 4 massive carriers entered Earth's atmosphere, each one holding thousands of elite soldiers dressed in gleaming exo-armor, carrying pulse rifles and flanked by hovering drones. Earth offered no protest, no delay. In fact, they offered landing zones in major cities: New York, Shanghai, Nairobi, and Sydney. The Zarnathi expected at least some tension, but what greeted them instead were organized streets. Open spaces, curious civilians, and cameras. The humans didn't hide. They watched. They recorded. As the Empire's troops began their parade through the towering buildings and wide streets of New York, no human soldier appeared to block their path. Instead, local leaders stood politely on the sidelines, waving or nodding. Children held signs with phrases like "Welcome visitors" and "Enjoy the weather." No one threw rocks, no one ran, but above, something quiet began. One by one, Earth's satellites, usually filled with media traffic and navigation systems, went offline. The excuse was a solar flare. Zarnathi didn't question it. They had seen planets lose control of their tech before. What didn't know was that the satellites hadn't been damaged. They had been turned, redirected, made to disappear from open scans. Meanwhile, in Shanghai, the troops marched through the financial district without a single person stepping in there. Earth's media reported it as a peaceful exchange, but behind closed doors, human engineers were silently watching every movement through hidden data channels. The alien armor, the drones, even the timing of the soldiers' boots on the ground, every detail was being recorded and analyzed. And in Nairobi, where the Zarnathi raised their empire's banner in the city square, the crowd simply clapped politely, like they were watching a school performance. One soldier whispered to another, "Why are they not scared?" But there. Commander silenced him. They will learn soon enough. In Sydney, the troops stopped at a museum, and to their confusion saw an exhibit titled, "Before the Visitors Came." Inside, they found models of alien tech, not Zarnathi, but older. Unknown designs displayed alongside ancient human tools. One of the Zarnathi scientists grew uneasy. "How long have they been collecting this?" he asked. There was no answer. Above all these cities, Zarnathi ships hovered with pride. But deep under the Earth's surface, in hidden command centers, beneath mountains, oceans, and old military bases, human eyes watched every broadcast. Every sound the soldiers made, every frequency the alien comes used, every facial reaction of the officers, it was all being logged. Not one move went unnoticed. And not just by humans. Artificial intelligence programs older than most Earth citizens knew had been silently tracking the aliens since before they even entered orbit. But now, those programs began to vanish not destroyed, but voluntarily withdrawn. They erased their presence from Earth's networks, leaving behind only quiet codes that pulsed like heartbeats. One Zarnathi admiral, watching from orbit, finally, asked the question his subordinates were afraid to speak. Why aren't they fighting back? His crew had no answer. The humans seemed content, but something didn't feel right. Earth was too organized, too quiet. It wasn't surrender, it was observation. In a dimly lit room, far below Colorado, General Michael Reed stood before a wall of screens, hands behind his back, face unreadable. Around him, young analysts worked in silence, tracing every alien signal, every communication between the soldiers on the ground. A soft voice from a technician broke the silence. "They think they've won, sir." The general didn't smile. He just nodded slowly and said, "That's exactly what we wanted." On the surface, Earth looked open and harmless. But beneath the ground, in the dark, humans were preparing. Not for defense, but for something else. The Zarnathi Empire had ruled the stars for over 3,000 years. Their fleets stretched across 1,000 worlds, their laws carved into the surface of moons, and their enemies were forgotten like dust. They believed themselves to be the final word in civilization. So, when one of their deep space listening posts picked up odd signals music, laughter, even arguments from a strange, small blue planet in a quiet corner of the galaxy, they were curious, but not concerned. The planet, called Earth, appeared primitive. No warp travel, no galactic presence, yet their signals showed thought, culture, even art. The Zarnathi High Command decided to send a single ship to bring this new species under the Empire's rule. Not a fleet, just one diplomatic cruiser with a few guards, and one of not for defense, but for something else. They weren't just studying the Empire, they were learning how to take it apart. Not with guns, not with missiles, with understanding. In New York, one child slipped a folded paper to a Zarnathi guard. The guard opened it later and found a hand-drawn picture. The alien fleet in flames. And the words, "Don't wake the bear." The message made no sense to him. But somewhere in a server room, buried beneath the Pacific, the phrase triggered a program that began counting down. Not a weapon, not a bomb, but a plan. It was quiet, invisible, and precise. The humans weren't resisting. Because they didn't need to. The Empire was already inside their hands, wrapped in smiles, coffee, and silent patience. And as the parades ended and the alien ships prepared to return for the next phase of occupation, no one noticed that every data stream from Earth was now flowing not just into space, but into the heart of the Zarnathi fleet. The humans had invited the Empire to walk right in, and now the doors were closing behind them. In the early hours of a cold morning, as Earth's skies remained quiet and the stars above still shimmered, a single encrypted signal was sent from a bunker hidden beneath the mountains of northern Canada. It was brief, direct, and written in a language that had never before appeared in the Galaxy One created by humans after years of silent research and endless testing. The message, translated instantly by the Zarnathi command systems in orbit, simply read, "You shouldn't have come." At first, the Empire's fleet saw it as nothing more than human arrogance, perhaps a final expression of defiance. But within seconds of receiving it, every screen aboard every ship began to flicker. Lights dimmed, gravity fields collapsed. Engines stopped humming. One by one, the mighty vessels of the Zarnathi went dark, drifting silently above Earth, like lifeless shadows. Confused officers shouted commands, but their voices were swallowed by systems that no longer responded. On the surface, Earth's people looked up, pretending not to notice, as the once dominant ships now floated helplessly. No alarms rang, no fighter jets launched. There were no missiles or energy blasts, just silence. And yet something massive was happening behind that silence. For decades, human scientists had been preparing for this moment. Not by building bigger weapons, but by understanding everything that Zarnathi didn't want them to know. It had started with the wreckage of a long-forgotten scout ship that crashed. Near the Arctic Circle 50 years ago, buried under ice, hidden from satellites, studied in absolute secrecy, That broken vessel became humanity's doorway to the galaxy's technology. Patiently, slowly they learned. They broke into the alien language. They studied the AI cores. They watched how the power systems hummed with layered frequencies. What the Zarnathi considered superior and impenetrable, humans saw as a puzzle. And humans love puzzles. It's what made them dangerous, not brute strength, but curiosity combined with patience. Now, all that learning had turned into action. The signal didn't just shut down the ships. It rewrote the very code inside the Empire's machines. AI systems once loyal to the Zarnathi were now receiving new instructions they couldn't recognize but had to obey. The digital heart of the fleet had been taken. On board the lead flagship, Admiral Cyrix of the Empire screamed at a darkened console, demanding answers. Lights blinked uselessly. His commands vanished into silence. His officers stood frozen. Unable to explain what was happening, outside the windows, Earth remained still, unaware, were pretending to be. But deep within hidden control rooms, buried in places no Zarnathi had ever reached, human operators monitored everything. They were young, calm, and highly trained. They didn't need missiles because they were already inside the enemy's mind. One technician, sipping from a chipped mug, smiled as green lights confirmed the success of the override. Her commander said quietly, "Never play chess with a species that invented it." It wasn't a joke. It was a warning, one the Empire had failed to hear. Earth had never been unprepared. They had been playing possum, hiding their claws behind music, smiles, and polite greetings. And now, with the Empire paralyzed above them, Earth made its next move. Not to destroy, but to show they could. Inside, each floating ship, emergency backups tried to reboot the systems. But every time they did, they found new firewalls, human-coded layers built from alien tech and modified by minds that thought differently than anything the galaxy had known. Before, the Zarnathi had always believed strength came from control. But humans had learned strength came from adaptability, from learning, from pretending to be weak until the moment came to strike. And now that moment had arrived. Across Earth, engineers launched secondary waves of code-digital pulses sent from high-altitude balloons, deep-sea cables, and even satellites that had been turned off. These pulses didn't just scramble the enemy. They mapped them, copied them, and fed data back to the human AI systems that were now evolving faster than anything the Empire had ever seen. It was no longer about defense. It was evolution in real time. In a lab below the surface of Antarctica, a group of scientists stared at a screen showing the Zarnathi flagship's layout in perfect 3D, complete with heat signatures, movement patterns, and intercepted internal messages. "They don't even know we're inside their walls," one whispered. Another replied, "They built their ships like fortresses, treated them like libraries." And above them, those great ships, the pride of the Empire, drifted helplessly. Their crews isolated, their systems betraying them one command at a time. Still, no shots were fired. Humanity didn't want war. They wanted the truth seen. They wanted the Empire to feel what humans had prepared for all these years. A message was sent not through radio, but through the very hulls of the ships delivered. Via the corrupted internal networks, now under human control, it said, "We didn't want this, but you gave us no choice." And then came the final step. Earth's AI systems, hidden in satellite grids and subterranean cores, spoke with the voice of unity, one voice for the whole planet. Calm, clear, and firm, it reached the Zarnathi's remaining commanders and said, "We see you. We understand you. We will not bow. You may have ruled the stars, but you have never faced us not truly." For the first time in centuries, the Zarnathi knew fear. Not of weapons, but of minds. Of a species that had smiled, waited, and learned in silence, until now, 48 hours had passed since Earth's quiet message brought the mighty Zarnathi fleet to a standstill. And in that short window, something impossible unfolded, something no Empire strategist had predicted in all their simulations. The humans didn't celebrate, didn't panic, and didn't waste time. Instead, they moved with precision, guided not by chaos, but by preparation hidden behind decades of silence. Their best teams, engineers, scientists, and tacticians boarded. The alien ships now floating dead in orbit. Access codes had already been cracked. Systems had already been mapped. And with stunning speed, the humans didn't just understand the alien ships, they improved them. They reconfigured energy cores, stabilized damaged reactors, and bypassed complex interfaces as if they had designed them. In truth, they had been practicing on fragments and simulations for years. AI programs designed by Earth's brightest minds fused with the alien cores, and in under 2 days, the Zarnathi's most advanced vessels now answered to humans. The process was so seamless that many systems even performed better under human control. A captured Zarnathi officer, forced to watch as Earth teams took control of his vessel, whispered in disbelief, "They learn faster than we conquer." And he was right. Earth was no longer studying, they were building. Behind the cover of the moon's dark side, long-hidden human shipyards came alive. These weren't public sites. They had been kept secret, hidden beneath craters and cloaked. From alien sensors, now, with access to alien power and advanced materials, Earth completed the impossible. From the shadows emerged the first true Terran fleet, not a copy of the Zarnathi ships, but a fusion. Human-built frames powered by alien drives, controlled by neural interfaces and AI commanders born from human-machine fusion. These new ships were sleeker, faster, and smarter, and within days they outmatched the Empire's fleet in every way. Across the stars, whispers spread. Races once enslaved or silenced by the Empire intercepted fragments of Earth's transmissions. First, they didn't believe it. No one had ever stood against the Zarnathi and survived. But when they saw the videos, the shut-down ships, the rising Terran fleet, something ancient stirred inside them. Hope. On a mining colony 3 systems away, workers removed the Empire's flags and painted Earth's symbol in their place. On a research moon, once governed by Zarnathi overseers, scientists refused orders and sent a message to Earth. We're ready to help. A rebellion didn't begin with gunfire, began with inspiration. Humanity hadn't just defended their planet, they had exposed the Empire's weakness for all to see. And Earth didn't wait to act. Their first interstellar strike wasn't massive, it was surgical. A single Terran cruiser, armed with hybrid tech, folded space and appeared above a critical Empire outpost deep in Zarnathi territory, where the base had no warning. It didn't even register a threat before its power grid collapsed. Its systems scrambled, and its command staff disabled by pulses of targeted code. No lives were lost, but the message was clear. Earth could strike anywhere, anytime, without raising a weapon. They didn't just know the Empire's technology, they understood its foundation. And more importantly, they knew how to undo it. Back on Earth, global leaders stood not as divided nations, but as a united world. For the first time in history, their differences had become strengths. Each language, each culture, each idea had shaped the way humanity approached the stars. They weren't a military empire. They were a thinking species. And when the time came, they offered the Zarnathi a single message, sent directly to their high command: change or vanish. It wasn't a threat, it was a decision. The galaxy had reached a turning point. The Empire, built on control, now faced an opponent it couldn't crush or manipulate. Because Earth didn't want to rule, they wanted freedom, understanding, and choice. They wanted a galaxy where no world had to kneel again. In orbit, the Terran fleet held position, not attacking, but watching. Below them, Earth remained calm, aware that the next steps would shape history. The Zarnathi had once believed humans were primitive. Now, they saw a force that had studied them in silence, waited in patience, and then moved with unmatched precision. They saw a species that had no interest in becoming conquerors, but would never be conquered again. And as the first wave of Allied ships from former Empire-controlled worlds approached Earth to make contact, one thing became clear across the stars. The age of fear was ending. And the age of humanity, curious, bold, and unyielding, was just beginning.